Now, something that I've been quite obsessed with, at least thinking about as of recently, is something that contradicts my investing strategy completely. That being buying into just a few super high quality ETFs that basically solve for everything most of us dividend investors are looking for and sail off into the sunset. Now, across my portfolio as of right now, I think I have around 27,000 shares throughout almost 60 different positions, which I get it, I probably need to do some spring cleaning, but like a lot of you guys can see, there's many small positions in here that I bought years ago that I just haven't sold in some of my smaller portfolios. But either way, like I said, I do like the idea of just buying into a few super high quality ETFs that offer more or less everything we're looking for. And the beauty is that because there's so many awesome ETFs out there these days in the market, investing is honestly easier than it's ever been, in my opinion. So in this video, we're going to go over a 4 ETF portfolio that's going to, like I said, solve for everything most of us dividend investors are looking for. That being things like tax efficiency, capital appreciation, monthly income generation, and a ton of dividend growth. Now, this 4 ETF portfolio is going to be extremely simple yet extremely powerful, so I definitely want you guys to stick around until the end to see exactly which positions are in it and my thought process with making this portfolio. So if this happens to interest you at all, make sure to stick around, drop a like down below, and let's get right into it. My A to Z dividend investing ebook has helped countless dividend investors get started with their journey, and my custom dividend tracker that I'm constantly using here on the channel has also helped so many investors stay on track and allow them to see their dividend income in real time. Well, today I have another treat for you guys. I'm not only going to offer you my A to Z dividend investing ebook and the custom dividend tracker, but also just for a short limited time, I'm going to be adding in my brand new weekly dividend blueprint ebook to show you how you can get started with weekly dividend ETFs and add this into your investing strategy. This offer is not going to last long, so go ahead and click the first link down below in my description, and you're going to get both ebooks and the custom dividend tracker bundle. But like I said, please act fast because this won't be around for long. Now let's get back into the video. Now, like you guys saw in the title, this 4 ETF portfolio is going to include my #1 favorite dividend growth ETF across the entire market, SCHD, or the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF, plus 3 other high yield, income focused ETFs to sort of balance out a well-rounded dividend portfolio, in my opinion. But the first position out of 4 is going to be SCHD. Like I said, this ETF offers tax efficiency. It's well diversified with 100 different holdings within it. The ETF offers around a 4% starting yield and offers a ton of dividend growth historically. Did I mention SCHD's total expense ratio is just 0.06%? I mean, this is basically why I always say this ETF is my favorite across the entire market. This ETF has offered investors around 13% returns year after year since inception. Now, the only thing about SCHD that might not make it a perfect one-size-fits-all for a long-term portfolio is that it does only offer around 4% yield, which might or might not be enough for you personally or for some investors out there. I mean, for me personally, I want to earn much more than 4% yield. That's just because I personally want to use some of my dividends in the future, say the next year or two, to start paying for some of my expenses, etc. But the cool thing is that if you combine SCHD with just a few other super high quality, higher yielders, we can definitely make this happen. Which brings me into the next ETF in this 4 ETF portfolio. Like I said, SCHD plus 3 other ETFs that are going to offer tax efficiency, upside potential, and a ton of income generation from day one. The #2 ETF, the first of the high yielders, will be QDBO, or the Amplify CWP, Growth and Income ETF. Now, going over what this ETF is and how it works, this is growth and high income potential, seeking capital appreciation from growth-oriented stocks with high monthly income from option premiums and dividends. Next, it says equity exposure and lower volatility. Covered calls and dividends may reduce volatility versus the overall market during times of broad-based market declines. Now, also, this ETF is actively managed and the expense ratio is a little bit higher at 0.55%. But for what this ETF does, I mean, it's actively managed, what it offers, I think that's fair. Now, QDBO buys into very familiar names that a lot of us probably would not mind having more exposure to. I mean, names like Alphabet, names like Amazon, names like Nvidia, Apple, etc. But then along with that, this ETF sells individual cover calls on certain names, as you can see down at the bottom. Now, because selling cover calls on high beta names does offer a ton of option premium, this ETF is offering, as of right now at least, a 10+% distribution rate. The distributions for QDBO are paid out monthly, and as of so far in 2025, they're averaging out at around 20 cents per share per year. So just to recap, so far, we'd be including SCHD and QDBO to offer a ton of dividend growth from SCHD, some upside potential from both the ETFs, and also some tax efficiency from both the ETFs as well. Which, don't worry, I figured that you would ask. It says right here in connection to the monthly dividend of 21+ cents per share. This was paid out by QDBO back in March. It says around 93% of such dividend will be return of capital. Now, this is exactly what a lot of us more income dividend-focused investors are looking for. Return on capital can be definitely helpful, depending on your own tax situation. Now, the next ETF in this 4 ETF portfolio that, like I said, would solve for most of what us dividend income focused investors are looking for. That being growth, that being income, and that being tax efficiency and diversification. We would have to include SPYI, the NEO's S&P 500 high income ETF, which yields well north of 12%. Now, in case you guys don't know how this ETF works and why I personally like it so much, this right here says the fund seeks to distribute high monthly income generated from investing in the constituents of the S&P 500 index and implementing a data-driven call option strategy. It also says actively managed by NEOS, the fund seeks to take advantage of tax loss harvesting opportunities in addition to utilizing SPX index options classified as Section 1256 contracts, which are subject to lower 60/40 tax rates. The fund utilizes a call option strategy that may include both selling and purchasing SPX index options, which may provide the opportunity for some upside capture in the rising equity markets. So again, because we're looking for the things we're looking for, like I said, growth, income, diversification, tax efficiency, this ETF would definitely make the list and offer us investors around 50 cents per share per month, which, side note, as of right now, I think in my long-term portfolio, I almost have 1,000 shares of this one. All in all, a great ETF if you, of course, are solving for all the things we're talking about, and especially if you want some more S&P 500 exposure, which I personally do. Now, last but not least, number 4 of this very simple yet very effective, potentially, dividend portfolio that's going to include exposure to income, tax efficiency, and everything else we talked about. It's going to be the NEOS NASDAQ 100 High Income ETF, or ticker symbol QQQI. Now, we don't have to go over exactly how this ETF works because it works the same exact way as SPYI more or less, but the only difference is this one uses the NASDAQ. With this, we're talking almost a 15% distribution rate and very consistent distributions of around 60 cents per share per month, at least since inception. The NEOS NASDAQ 100 High Income ETF offers NASDAQ 100 exposure through an income-oriented strategy, which, at least as of so far, has been something great for my portfolio. All to say that in this 4 ETF portfolio, having some NASDAQ 100 exposure, having some S&P 500 exposure, having some big tech exposure like we found in QDBO, and of course having the exposure of the Dow Jones US Dividend 100 Index like we find in SCHD, I personally think that this 4 ETF portfolio might be one of the simplest portfolios that solves for almost everything us dividend income focused investors are looking for. So now that I share with you guys a very simple yet very effective 4 ETF portfolio that solves for at least everything I personally am looking for as a dividend investor, I lastly want to hear from you guys down below. If I were to ask you to build out a perfect quote unquote dividend portfolio with just 4 ETFs inside of it, which 4 names would you choose? Drop the ticker symbols in my comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like on it and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.